Trevino, USCFootball.com. Instant analysis from spring practice 2023. Practice actually number 3, but the first one that we got to check out at least a little bit. We got to watch a good portion of the stretching and then some of the individual drills early on. Then we got to talk to a lot of players, a couple of coaches after practice. So yeah, it's good. It's been a while since we've been out here, like since before the Cotton Bowl, but now get out here kind of talking to people, getting a look at some new faces, new bodies, new numbers, a lot of new stuff out here, Chris. But it was good. I think there was a lot of energy, a lot of media here, but I think it was a lot of fun.
Tons of media here. I counted at least 25, a lot of TV cameras, and obviously it's the first day of spring, so everyone's huddled around the tunnel. They want to see who's the first player out. They want to see all these new transfers, early enrollee freshmen, so many things to look for. It's a little overwhelming to see all those things, but we did get to a good idea of, people's body types, people gaining weight, losing weight, just see what people look like. And I think you and I were talking about before we started recording, just like we were talking about who clearly looks like they put on muscle. I think Kalen Bullock was obviously one of those guys. His arms, you can see it. Latrell McCutcheon was another one of those guys. I know people are freaking out about Corey Foreman being 235. He looked the same to us. He didn't, it's not like he's dropped 30 pounds or something like that, but he looked the same still. You have to remember when Corey Foreman came in, he looked like an SEC dude. He was big, first guy off the bus kind of dude. Same look, didn't have any bad weight, anything like that, moving to the defensive line. We'll talk about him a little bit more and what we saw in those drills, but yeah, it's so fresh and new. You get to start the slate clean, and that's what the first time we get to see spring is all about.
Romello Height was another guy that I locked. I think he was in a yellow jersey, if I'm not mistaken, but just looked. He was the first guy off the bus person anyway. First person off the bus.
Ryan's a fan because we cannot say those things on here. You're not allowed to say that. So Ryan, get it together.
First guy off the bus. What can't we say?
Yellow jersey. You can't say that.
Oh crap! Yeah.
Sorry, you heard that.
Yeah, but that wasn't a part of the thing. But seeing guys like that out there, they're just, I think, looking impressive. Even when we talked to Jacoby Covington, the defensive back transfer from Washington, his arm looked bigger. A lot of the guys looked better. And most of the players we talked to, had good things to say about Benny Wiley and the offseason conditioning. And it just seemed like, I got to talk to Benny Wiley about a week or so ago. We put a bunch of stuff in the war room for that. But just seemed like this was a little bit different. He said that you could ask more of these guys in year 2. And it seems like a lot of the guys have bought in and did more.
Yeah, I mean, everyone bought in even further to what it was. Asked some of the guys about the program, and felt like they all took steps forward within Benny Wiley's program, and then just coupled with the nutrition program. And remember, that didn't get started here at USC under Lincoln Riley until the summer. They didn't get their feel for the nutrition program and getting that in until the summer. So just having more time to get in with the nutrition and build that up has just been a really nice pairing, and we're seeing more dividends now in spring, and we'll see more in the fall and the summer.
We're going to talk about the offensive line a little bit. Josh Henson, the offensive line coach and offensive coordinator, he spoke. I know some of the transfers, or at least one of the transfers were speaking today. But they don't have all the new bodies yet. They don't have all the freshmen that have come in, but you got a couple of transfers. Elijah Page is there. Apparently he looked really good. And maybe the biggest, one of the last things Henson said is our RJ Abadia asked him about Jonah Monheim, who came on later. We got to speak to him too. But he said, there was Lincoln Riley talked yesterday on a Zoom. He didn't get to talk today about cross training, and there'd be a lot of, trying to work on different positions. Jonah Monheim is going to play right tackle, right guard, and also center. So he's doing some snaps, and he talked about, he hasn't done that many of it, but he really appreciates what guys like Brett Nealon do and Justin Dietich do, but he's working all of those positions, so that's kind of an interesting aspect of it. But he's one of those guys that went from like, I'm one of the young dudes on the team, to now he's a veteran kind of helping some of the other guys.
Yeah, I think if you're Josh Henson, you're in a really good spot going into the 2023. You are a little bit thin at the offensive line. I mean, Lincoln Riley did mention that on his presser the other day, that they are thin, and that's clear. They have a walk-on, operating as a second-team center. But reinforcements are coming. Of Ethan White, who is coming from Florida. He will be joining the team, and then you have 4 more freshmen that are coming in the summer. One of them was here today, Tobias Raymond, 6'7", 280 pounds. He was checking out practice. He was in attendance, so you have bodies coming, but right now you just got to get through spring. But it is a nice position to be in with spring, just because you do have Michael Tarquin coming in. You do have Jared Kingston coming in. Both of those guys spoke to the media today, and they're big. I mean, they're big, man. I mean, Jared Kingston, who we thought, maybe could be the left tackle for this team. He played left tackle at Washington State. He played more guard, what we saw in practice. Now, I feel like they're going to be doing a bunch of cross trading, and everyone's going to be shifting around. Everyone's going to be moving because Michael Tarquin was playing the left tackle spot, and he spoke about having to shake off the rust. He mentioned that several times, especially at left tackle. He played more right tackle last season, so I think that's why we projected him more at the right tackle spot. But he said, they just started him out at left. They're putting him right there. It's not like it's, signed, sealed, delivered, anything like that. There's going to be a lot of mixing and matching with spring. But it was interesting to see Michael Tarquin at left to start and Jared Kingston at that right guard position, with Jonah Monheim still sticking at right, even though, as you mentioned, he's going to be playing multiple positions, mainly so guard and tackle. He played a little bit of center after practices sometimes because they were a little bit thin at that position, but a lot of mixing and matching is going to happen in spring. But one position we know where there won't be that much mixing is at center, with Justin Dietich coming back, and he talked about how the development that he got last season under Josh Henson was, the final selling point for him. He got all that in such a short amount of time, and now to come back and be coached by a guy who's a center whisperer, that's his specialty. Yeah, he couldn't turn that down, especially, knowing he needs more tape for the NFL if he wants to go to the NFL at center. That's his natural position. He's not going to be a guard in the NFL. He's going to be a center. So it was just a perfect matching, a perfect pair between those two. And yeah, Justin is your center moving forward. But everything else is probably going to be shifting a little bit around him as they try to find that best five to put out.
Yeah, you talked about being a veteran like Justin Dietich, but it's different. You're closer. Henson said that if you're the center now, you're used to playing guard. You're closer to the defensive lineman, and you can't have those kind of big mistakes. You have to have mistakes. He made a golf analogy where it's like if you're at the U.S. Open and you miss it and you're just in the rough sucks in the U.S. Open, but your shot off the tee is you're in the rough. He's like, my tee shot is like four fairways over. He goes, you got to have the small misses, not the big misses. So for a guy like Dietich, learning how to deal with a defensive lineman that's right in your face. And he mentioned this. He also mentioned Tarquin, I think mostly sticking at tackle, and then Kingston, he said, could play both. So he might do guard and do some tackle and stuff there. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's all going to play out. But he did say that right now it's like you're moving people around. You're just kind of getting a feel for where everyone's going to be. But they're going to get more depth over the summer and in the fall, obviously. But they're really kind of playing around a little bit with stuff. But it was interesting, and I like the analogy he was talking about, just how different it is if you're going to play center versus guard. But a guy like Dietich can do it.
Yeah, and Dietich also talked about making that adjustment back to center after playing guard for a couple seasons, and we saw him in the Cotton Bowl. He did good. I think he made all the PFF's all postseason bowl team as a center, so he graded out really well, and we'll see what that looks like moving forward. But he also mentioned about trying to get over not worrying about making the perfect call. He's trying to make the perfect call, but sometimes you just got to make a call and roll with it and live with the consequences of that. So I think that's what that's what spring is for, and I think that's what they're working on now. Is just getting over trying to make a perfect call just making a call and sticking to it.
Yeah. Caleb Williams did speak, so we didn't hear from Lincoln Riley, but we heard from Caleb Williams. Polished guy. You're going to hear the kind of quarterback talk. It just sort of like goes. It's just, okay, he's just saying the right things. There was a lot of TV cameras there, so they're asking like general questions about how you finished last season and things like that. But it's interesting for him. He has a relationship with Malachi Nelson. We heard from Lincoln Riley that basically Malachi Nelson, who had his left shoulder injury, really got to throw for the first time at practice on Sunday, which is the first practice, USC spring practice. And it's sort of like asking like a golfer who hasn't warmed up to go out and play in a tournament. That was the analogy, another golf analogy that Lincoln Riley used. But Caleb Williams said he does have a long relationship with Malachi Nelson, and it's a first for him being able to come back and be like the older guy, the veteran guy who can kind of show him around and tell him what to do and help him on the sidelines and things like that. So kind of different role for a guy like Caleb Williams now.
Yeah, I mean that's the role that he also has to accept now that he's a junior. He's a Heisman winner, the most talented guy on the team, and there'll be a lot of preseason awards thrown at him, a lot of NFL 2024 talk. All that is going to be swirling around as this offseason. Can he defend the Heisman? Can he win again? But all he cares about is winning, and all he cares about is taking young guys under his wing for when he moves on to the next level. So right now, I would say he's focused on playing this 2023 season, getting those guys behind him ready if anything should happen. And Malachi Nelson seemed to have a really good relationship. They were racing to come out today for spring practice. I got that video up. So, yeah, just good vibes all around in that quarterback room. Very talented quarterback room with Miller Moss and also Jake Jensen in there as well. So they are a stacked quarterback room. And, I think when Caleb first came in, we were worried about the depth of that room, a year ago about they only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks at this point. So they've really built that room from the floor up, got a 5-star freshman in there. So, yeah, even behind Caleb, they have a lot of talent.
For sure. And one of the things you talk about Caleb Williams and a lot of like year 2, what they need to do better. And Jonah Monheim had something kind of interesting to say where he said, last year you're talking about a team that was 4-8 and you're trying to get a winning culture. And there was a lot of focus on winning and what you do to win. And now it's more about what you do to win a championship. So it went from like a winning culture to a championship culture. And that's just the feeling I get from talking to a lot of these guys, that it's just, you've changed things, from year 1 to year 2. There's a lot of confidence. And hearing Lincoln Riley speak yesterday, just a lot of optimism about this team is going to get better than a lot of people think. That's sort of the vibe I was getting. I don't know if you got that too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you talk to guys, Tarquin, for example, was talking about, good things are happening here. He wants to be part of this as they try to win a national championship. Those are his words, national championship, not Pac-12 championship, not Pac-12 South championship, whatever. It's national championship. So that's kind of the caliber it's raised to. And the whole offseason motto this year has been jobs not finished. And obviously that speaks to this new championship mentality. Yeah, you won some games last year, don't have much to show for. You didn't get the ring, you didn't go to the playoff, you didn't get a combo. Now it's about winning championships. So you're seeing the evolution of the culture and the program building as it happens. So it's really fun to see. And yeah, I feel that from all the players talking. Like, you can tell that there's, because when we were talking about them last year, it's more like, oh, this is new, what's it been like? Now it's like, we're in the system, we know what we're doing. Now it's about winning a championship.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have I think we're running out of battery on the phone here, but we got to talk a little defense. I didn't get to talk to any defensive players, but watching the early part of practice, they were doing, even though they're in the shells today, right? They had a lot of tackling drills. We saw the defensive backs going through different tackling drills where they were tackling a big donut, but then tackling each other. I saw the same thing with the linebackers where they're going back to back and then doing a kind of running around and coming back and tackling each other. Got to see Taka Curtis out there doing some work, but they're doing some tackling. So live tackling, even though they're not in full pads yet.
Yeah, not a ton of notes to give you for the defensive side of the ball. Didn't get to talk to any defensive coaches. Alex Grinch was scheduled to speak today, but due to a conflict issue with the schedule, he didn't speak today, so he's going to speak to us at a later point in time in camp. So don't have a ton of defensive notes, but, got to see Corey Foreman working with defensive line. Thought he looked good. It felt more natural seeing him out there at the defensive line position. You got to see those rush end positions. Sam Green, not the biggest guy in the world, Ryan, but massive arms, super fast, super violent. Then everyone's favorite, Taka Curtis, was just out there, looking like a grown man. I asked Shane Lee about him. He's like, I asked, is he pretty big for a freshman? He's like, oh yeah, he's big. And he commented on his work ethic and, all the hours he's been putting in the weight room. And you can tell it's catching the eye of veterans like Shane Lee. And then Rajon Davis was actually kind of working with the ones alongside Shane Lee at that Mike position, Rajon at the Mike position. And Shane Lee said, yeah, Rajon's been really impressive early in camp. You see him getting the defense down, and he's athletic as heck. And I think USC fans like the sound of an athletic linebacker in the middle. So obviously Eric Gentry is banged up. He is not doing spring camp, so plenty of reps to go around for some of the young linebackers.
For sure. Well, I know we're probably dying on battery here. Any final notes, Chris, for spring practice? Number 3, but really number 1 for us.
Yeah, number 1 for us. I thought it was a good day. Lots going on in the first day of spring. Lots to watch, lots to see, lots of media. So we'll really hone in over the next couple of days. Well, when they get back from spring break, because we're gonna take a little bit of a break before we get back into it. But I'm excited to see what the next practice comes. So we'll be a little bit more honed in. But I thought it was good energy, good focus from the team, and looks like they have that mentality of they need to win a championship. They have work to be done. There's work to be done.
Certainly there's work to be done, but they're going to take spring break. So we're going to a little time off, almost 2 weeks before we go to the next practice. It'll be not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that when they come back from spring ball. We'll be back doing the instant analysis. Probably Jack. Jack had class tonight, but hopefully Jack will be back doing instant.
He had a midterm tonight. So wish him luck on his midterm if you're in the comments.
Yeah, but we had a great time with Tunnel Vision. Hope you guys can check that out. For Chris Trevino, I'm Ryan Abraham. Make sure you check out USCfootball.com for more.